Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Pete, and this is a 5-minute Bags of Action review of Restless Natives from 1985. Two Scottish friends become local folk heroes and tourist attractions when they start holding up tour buses with novelty items. This 80s movie was directed by Michael Hoffman, who would go on to direct One Fine Day, starring George Clooney and Michelle Pfeiffer, and also A Midsummer Night's Dream. It was written by Ninian Dunnet, whose only other feature credit is the film Magic in the Water. The two main highwayman characters, Will and Ronnie, are played by Vincent Friell, who went on to be in Trainspotting and episodes of Taggart, and Joe Mullaney, also in TV show Taggart, but he hasn't acted since 1994. Terry Lally is the other main cast member. She's also been in Take the High Road, but also hasn't acted since 1994. As well as these three kind of Scottish TV actors, you do have some more familiar faces. Ned Beatty, the American actor from films like Deliverance, Superman, and more recently Shooter, is in this film. Bernard Hill, who you'll know from the Lord of the Rings movies, Titanic, and also The Scorpion King, and comedian Mel Smith, one half of Smith and Jones, who's been in The Princess Bride, The Tall Guy, and also The Wolves of Willoughby Chase. Now, I saw this Scottish film on TV when I was quite young, and it stayed with me ever since, so I thought I'd give it another go. IMDb describes it as a crime comedy, and I think that's apt. It's more of a comedy than I remembered, to be honest. And this film, it's one of those things where you see a film when you're quite young and you go back to it, 30 plus years later, and it's quite a different film. Now, I did remember some of the iconic things, and they still feel special. They wear, one of them wears a clown mask when they're doing these robberies. The other one wears a wolfman mask because one of the characters works in a fancy dress shop, so they use the stuff he's got there. I remember the Suzuki motorbike they go everywhere on. I remember the Edinburgh location and also the stunning kind of Scottish scenery. And I remember that Big Country did the soundtrack, which was very, very iconic and very of the time, very kind of mid-80s. But seeing it again, it's a quite different film than I remember. It's an optimistic, romantic movie in many ways, against the backdrop of boredom, low pay, working class struggle and rebellion. I love how this film explores the lure of celebrity at a time long before social media and reality shows. As soon as the newspapers start to get hold of the story of these two people, it starts to kind of take over their lives. Like Rob Roy or Robin Hood, these two harmless highwaymen, they aren't there to hurt anybody, and as the story progresses, you really start to warm to them and their friendship, especially when they start to almost turn on each other. It is a slight film in some ways. It's naive, and there isn't really that much real tension in it, but it focuses more on characters, and it makes some interesting statements on the role of tourism in Scotland and the influence of the UK government, and I guess in this point in history, the role of Margaret Thatcher on things happening north of the border. Now, I think this is one of the films you really need to see. It's charming, it's funny, and it's very much its own thing, even though the plot is quite formulaic in the way it hits certain beats, and there are a few things that make you scratch your head and you think, well, I won't spoil those because I say it's one of those films I saw it a long time ago, but I'd say that anyone should watch it. It's just something slightly different, and a bit like kind of Scottish humour in film is a bit like Australian humour on film as well. It's got that kind of quirky kind of feel to it that I think makes this film really interesting. In some way, it shares more connective tissue with films like The Full Monty or Brassed Off or Bill Forsyth movies like Local Hero than it does your average heist movie. Don't go into this expecting a Scottish Ocean's 11. But this is a really, really likeable movie, and the 89-minute running time flies past. Like I say, if you haven't seen it, I would say give it a go. It certainly made me want to visit Scotland and Edinburgh again, and it brought back some really good childhood memories. And I say those iconic moments are really worth your time. So, all that considered, looking back on it and watching it again, I'm going to give Restless Natives 3 bags of action out of 5, and I still have lots of warm feelings about this film. Have you seen Restless Natives? Do you agree with my assessment of it? Or maybe you're going to give it a go, and maybe you can come back and tell us what you think. Feel free to comment below, or you can get in touch with us. You can do that on email, Facebook, and on Twitter. We have new episodes coming out every week, including our full-length podcast. Don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you never miss a notification of an upcoming episode. Bags of Action will always be free, but if you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do that at our Ko-fi page.